YouTube! My name is Sarah and welcome to the Bookish Knitter. And welcome to my week in books. This is for week number 20 and it is May the 11th through May the 17th of 2025. I finished 4 books this week, you guys. I'm very, very pleased with that. So let's get in and talk about them all. So the first one that I finished was Dim Sum of All Fears by Vivien Chien. This is the second book in the Noodle Shop Mystery Series. I do have the physical edition here and I did read it, some of it physically, and that's often what I do. I don't just completely listen to an audiobook unless I only have the book available on audio. I will often jump between a physical or digital edition along with an audiobook depending on the situation. So I did listen to this primarily though on audio. I had originally borrowed it from Kobo because it was available if you have the Kobo Plus subscription. It is available free to listen to on Kobo Plus. But for some reason, I don't know whether it was this book, and I've had other people tell me that their Kobo audiobook listening is perfectly fine. But for some reason, this one just kept stopping. So I ended up borrowing it from Everand, and I listened to it there, which was great. The narrator on this was Cheryl May. So that's fantastic. I gave this 4.5 stars, guys. I really enjoyed this one. I love this series. This is probably hands down, outside of the Grilled Cheese Shop Mystery Series, this is probably my favorite cozy mystery, and The Cat Who, one of my favorite cozy mystery series. Those would be my top 3. It'd be The Cat Who, this one, and then the Grilled Cheese Shop by Linda Riley. So just because it makes me crave grilled cheese every single time I read it. And this one makes me want Chinese food every time I read it. So in this one at the beginning of the book, Lana is our main character. Her parents go back to Taiwan to care for her grandmother, and Lana is left in charge of the noodle shop. So basically the premise of this series, if you're unfamiliar with it, the series has been around for a while. I think we're up to book 9 or 10 now. And so basically she runs, it takes place in this place called Asia Village, and her parents run a noodle shop, the Holy Noodle House, and dead bodies happen all the time. And Lana investigates the murders, basically. So in this one, like I said, her parents go to Taiwan, leaving her in charge of the noodle shop. And the day after they leave, one of the other girls who works in the mall, Kimmy, she stumbles across the dead bodies of 2 other proprietors, like new proprietors of the mall. They have a souvenir shop, and the husband's a little shady. He's never actually at the store. He's always leaving his wife to open and close the store. She's super sweet, very close friends with Lana. So they're trying to find out basically what happens. It turns out the husband had all these ex-wives and something to do with gambling. And it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. I love all the characters in these books. I love the dynamic between Lana and her sister Anna May. I really enjoy Peter, the guy who does the cooking at the shop. Her mother is a hoot. And if you're listening to these on audio, I just love the way the mother says, Lana, is the name. It's delightful. It's absolutely delightful. Her best friend Megan is great. And Kyoko, I think it's Kyoko is the dog. A little pug dog. Love. So yeah, this series is fantastic. And I'm so excited because just recently, within the last 6 months or so, all the rest of the books have now been brought out on audio. They only had, I think, the first 3 or 4 were on audio, but now they've brought out the rest of them. They've changed narrators. And to be honest, I really like the original narrator. So, we'll see what happens with the new narrator. But yeah, these books are delightful. If you're a cozy mystery fan, definitely check these ones out. The next one that I finished was A Cape Cod Holiday by Jo McNally. This is the second book in the Winsome Cove series, and it is a Harlequin Special Edition novel number 3073, and it was published in January of 2025. I read this one as an ebook from my library. I gave it 4 stars, and it has 2 chili peppers. If you're curious on my spice ratings, and everybody's spice ratings are subjective, I do have that listed below if you want to go ahead and check that out. So this is the story of Grace and Max. And at first, I was not the biggest fan of Grace, to be completely honest. And really, to be honest, throughout the whole book, she kind of sort of annoyed me, but I kind of get why she was like that as you read the book and find out what happened. So basically, at the beginning of the book, Max finds out that he's a dad. For his job, which I think is super cool, he forges knives and swords. He works at Renaissance fairs and things like that. And 6 years ago, he was at this Renaissance fair, and there was a woman who worked there, and she was like a tambourine player, dancer or something. She was, and they met and had one night together. And then 6 years later, he gets this phone call from a children's services worker that, oh, guess what? You're a dad. And the woman that he'd been with, I think her name was Marie, she had tragically passed away in a car accident, but she had named him, like as the father to this little boy named Tyler. And so there was a custody battle before the book even starts between Marie's parents, like the grandparents, and Max. And, so all these things kind of happened. So he ended up winning custody of the little boy and never even knew who this boy, the little boy called him Max. He didn't call him Dad. And they ended up moving from, I think it was Ohio, to Winsome Cove, which is in Cape Cod, which is why it's called the Cape Cod Holiday. This does take place at Christmas at the very, very end of the book. It starts, I want to say September-ish, and it kind of goes throughout that entire period, like the tail end of the year, and ends at Christmas time. So even though this was published in January, it's not a super Christmassy book, not until the very end of the book anyway. Halloween is passed throughout the book as well. They discuss that and stuff. So anyway, he moves to this small town. And because his mother lives there and his sister's book is the first book in the series, I do want to go back and eventually read that one as well. And so he's trying to get along with this little boy, trying to figure out parenthood and the whole 9 yards. And then his neighbor's name is Grace, and she's a bit of a stick in the mud. So right when they first meet, she's kind of got her nose up in the air about the fact that, he's got this trailer that he used to use to go from like Renaissance Fair or whatever to whatever and sell his wares. And she's like, well, that's commercial. You can't park that in a residential neighborhood. And there's all these rules and blah, blah, blah. She's all about the rules. And, and then when they start to get to know each other more, he's working one night in the forge in this outbuilding on his property, which is completely allowed to do. And, she kind of comes in to say hi to him. And then she's like, well, where's your kid? Like, well, why are you not watching him if he's in bed? And he's like, don't tell me how to parent. Like, he had cameras set up, like a nanny cam kind of an idea, so he could watch the little boy. And anyway, it was a whole thing. So, and it ends up being their relationship. So it's definitely an enemies to lovers type book, but I really did enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars. Grace, like I said, kind of annoyed me a bit until I kind of started to understand more why she was the way she was. That's revealed throughout the book, so I'm not going to tell you that here. But I do recommend that you read it. It was a fun story. There were some spicy bits, but yeah, I liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. The next book that I finished was False Moves by Carolyn Keene, which is the 9th book in the Nancy Drew mystery series, the Nancy Drew Files series. And this one I own in print, and that's how I read it, and I gave it 3 stars. I enjoyed this one. So it wasn't one of my favorites. So in this one, the last book, the book before this one, Nancy and Ned, those of you who are longtime Nancy Drew readers, even back from the old Yellow Spine Nancy Drew book days, know that Nancy and Ned Nickerson are a couple. And in book number 8, they split up at the very end because Ned was sick of playing second fiddle to Nancy's mysteries, basically. And then in this one, he reaches out to her because his new girlfriend is implicated in a theft. So basically, she is a ballerina with this touring company in Chicago, and this very rare diamond from India was being used on one of the costumes, and during the production, the lights go out and, all of a sudden the gem is missing. And so Nancy's kind of called in to investigate. She has a new boyfriend as well. Spoiler alert, towards the end of the book, the two of them do kind of sort of start to get back together again. It was fun. I gave it 3 stars. These are enjoyable enough reads. For those of you who don't know, I read these nostalgia books. This month it's Nancy Drew. Next month it's going to be Sweet Valley High. And, I read them over 5 days. I could finish this in a sitting in an hour or so. But I do read them over 5 days, so many pages a day over 5 days. And I enjoy it. They're fun, nostalgic throwback. These were all published in the 80s. So they're very like that nostalgic feeling. Like, they're not using cell phones. They're not using computers. They're not, you know what I mean? Like, Nancy, goes around with a pen and paper. You know what I mean? They're very throwback, very nostalgic, and a lot of fun. And the final book that I finished this week was How to Solve Your Own Murder by Kristen Perrin. This is the first book in the Castle Knowles Files series. The second book has been published. And I think one of you in my comments commented that you actually like the second book more. So I'm looking forward to getting to book 2. This I listened to, again, as I mentioned about The Dim Sum of All Fears. I read this physically as well as listened to it on audio. And I actually borrowed this from Spotify on audio, and it was fantastic. The narrators, there are 2 different narrators because this takes place in two different timelines, are Alexandra Dowling and Jace Jacobs, and I gave this 4 stars. So this is a cozy mystery of sorts. So it starts out in 1966, I think it's 1965, bear with, 1965 at the county fair. And our main character, Frances, gets her fortune told and is told that she is going to be murdered. And kind of given these clues, like something to do with dry bones, something to do with a queen, you know, all these things. And, you know, her friends who are with her are kind of like, oh, it was a silly fortune, don't worry about it. But she basically spends the rest of her life obsessed with this and making sure she does not get murdered, like to the point that she won't like play chess and hold the queen because of like the fortune of holding a queen in your hand. You know, something about a wedding that she was going to pay for. She's very well to do. And they wouldn't let the wedding happen at this one place because the serviettes, or whatever you want to call them, the napkins, had the queen, something queen on them, and she didn't want to hold this napkin in her hand, like to that extent. So anyway, beginning of the book, her great niece, whose name is Annie, is called and to come for a reading of the will, like an early reading of the will. The woman's still alive. Frances is still alive at this point. But when Annie arrives in town, they go to her house to see her, they find her dead. So now the whole thing is Annie is trying to solve Great Aunt Frances's murder, because the stipulation in her will, of course, is the first person to solve her murder gets her estate. So kind of fun. But it, like I said, it's a dual timeline. So it goes back to this diary that Frances kept during 1965 and 1966 with the disappearance and potential murder of one of her friends, Emily. So you're getting kind of two mysteries in one in this case. And they kind of do tie in together at the very end. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was really well written. And I did really like the narration. I kind of like the narration a bit more of the person who did Frances's voice back in the 1960s. But still, the whole thing overall was really enjoyable. And I'm really looking forward to the second book. I don't want to give away too much on this one because I don't want to give away, you know, the mysteries. But it's a lot of fun. Takes place in the UK. Really enjoyable. Highly recommend. So anyway, guys, that is everything that I finished this week. I do hope that you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please hit the like button below. And if you want to see more, please subscribe to my channel. And until my next video, everybody, take care and happy reading. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye, guys.